Got some breaking news from the Oval Office. Donald Trump just confirmed it. The first strike against Venezuelan cartels is complete, and Maduro's response, he's begging. 3 warships, nuclear submarines, precision strikes, what started as threats just became a reality. While Maduro scrambles to arm civilians and pleads with China for fighter jets, Trump's message is clear. The cartel's reign of terror ends now. The operation launched at dawn. Special forces coordinated with naval assets, cartel infrastructure burning. But this is only the beginning. Border Czar Tom Homan confirms operations in 43 countries are next. The cartels thought they could flood our streets with fentanyl. Well, that party's over. They thought wrong. What Trump just authorized changes everything, and the details from the Oval Office will shock you. So keep on watching. Now, let me ask you something. If you've built up $100,000 or more in investments, do you really want all of that riding on the stock market? Think about it. Banks, billionaires, even entire countries are loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. That's why I want to tell you about Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to own investment-grade gold and silver. The same kind being that big players are buying. So visit nextnewsgold.com today. That's nextnewsgold.com. It's time to protect what you have built. That number on the screen, 877-646-5347. Operators are standing by. Make sure you tell them that Gary Franchi sent you. So here is President Trump from the Oval Office just a few hours ago, confirming the attack.
When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over.
And now we have the video. Eric Trump writing, as a person who has had multiple friends and children of friends die of fentanyl, nothing puts a bigger smile on my face. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, stop poisoning our citizens. Quote tweeting OSINT Defender, footage released by the Department of Defense showing today's precision strike by the U.S. Navy against a vessel belonging to the Cartel of the Suns in the southern Caribbean Sea off the coast of Venezuela. Let's go full screen on that and show you. There it is. There is the drug boat being targeted and off the Caribbean. Look at all the drugs in that boat. You can see it. It's just loaded with drugs. Another shot. Boom. Right there. Completely taken out. And the drug runners are no more. Now, this is unclassified video that has just been released, as President Trump said we'd see it. And now you're seeing it for the first time. Everyone reporting on it. Fox News, U.S. military destroying a Venezuelan drug boat in international waters with 11 Trinidad and Tobago narco-terrorists aboard, according to the Trump administration. The White House posting this 2 hours ago. Please let this serve as notice to anyone even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware. And they posted a Truth Social post by President Trump. Early this morning, on my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Trinidad and Tobago narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. TDA is a designated foreign terrorist organization operating under the control of Nicolas Maduro, responsible for mass murder, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and acts of violence and terror across the United States and Western Hemisphere. The strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters transporting illegal narcotics heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. Please let this serve as notice to anyone even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That's President Trump's new sign-off. Jack Posobiec, military strikes on the cartel have begun. And under the shadow of the U.S. warships, Maduro begging Trump not to unleash military force, offering cooperation on drug trafficking instead, but Trump isn't buying it. From the Oval Office, he declared a Venezuela drug boat has already been blown out of the water. Let's see what Maduro is saying. Now, we translated this for you, so you don't have to hear it in his native language, but in English.
Critical problem of consumption. If you, President Trump, are truly serious about engaging in a genuine discussion regarding the fight to eradicate drug trafficking, then Venezuela, I can tell you, possesses extensive experience in this field. And I say this with all due modesty. We not only have the experience, but also a proven record of concrete, tangible results. If the other nations, following the example of our current collaboration with Colombia, if the other countries throughout South and Central America truly wish to coordinate a unified, comprehensive strategy to tackle this critical issue, this pervasive problem, among the many other profound challenges facing our continent, then we stand entirely at your disposal. Our National Anti-Narcotics Superintendency, our dedicated police forces, and our Bolivarian National Armed Forces, all staffed with professionals of the absolute highest quality, possessing impeccable ethics and unwavering morals, are prepared to offer their full expertise, provided there is a genuine, sincere desire and political will to truly confront and overcome this complex problem. President Petro has highlighted a fundamental issue, echoed by many regional leaders, the critical problem of consumption. This grave problem involves production, trafficking, the devastating impact of consumption, and the illicit laundering of astronomical sums, billions upon billions of dollars. Regarding any of these critical issues, should you wish to share our extensive experience in this ongoing struggle, we are entirely at your disposal, always in a sovereign and, of course, peaceful manner. Very well then. Now, this particular point, I've included it here because it arrived, on the Huawei mobile phone that President Xi Jinping personally presented to me, and which...
Look at him. He's there brandishing the cell phone that he got from China. U.S. launches lethal strike on vessel from Venezuela in southern Caribbean. Are we at war with Venezuela? China steps in now. This is 72 hours ago. China steps in to arm Venezuela. Tensions went through the roof. Reports suggest China has begun supplying advanced weapons and military equipment to Venezuela as U.S. warships gather nearby.
Like steel. Breaking news. China is helping Venezuela against the U.S. What you're seeing are Chinese amphibious tanks, and they are no longer confined to land. For the first time, the VN-16 and VN-18 massive amphibious war machines supplied by Beijing were filmed charging directly into the sea. Like steel crocodiles, these monsters leap into the water powered by turbines, reaching over 40 kilometers per hour before storming the beach with devastating firepower. Each one is armed with a 105 millimeters cannon and an arsenal of guided missiles. China has reportedly moved to arm Venezuela with its most advanced combat aircraft, the Chengdu J-10C and the stealthy J-20 fighter jets, against F-16 and F-35 amid rapidly rising tension with the United States. With China's backing, Venezuela now has a force capable of defending its coast and even launching amphibious assaults. And for Washington...
Now, we'll see if that actually pans out to be true, but this is the word on the street right now. Trump sending a warning to the cartels: we will use every tool, legal, financial, and military, to completely destroy you. Trump deploying 3 warships to Venezuela to hunt them down, but Venezuela struck back. Now the cartel war just became something much bigger. Phil Williams asking, are we about to see war in our own backyard? If you're not tracking the news right now, you may have missed an entire naval strike group has moved off the shores of Venezuela.
Right now, off the coast. All right, some thoughts on the morning drive. Wow. Are we about to have a war in the Western Hemisphere again? So keep your eyes on our southern waters, my friends, because what we're watching right now off the coast of Venezuela is really something to behold. And it has shades of what happened in Panama in 1989. So here's the deal. President Nicolas Maduro has recently been declared by the Trump administration to be the leader of a massive cartel called Cartel de las Soles, which is the cartel of the sun that collaborates with Trinidad and the Sinaloa cartel to traffic drugs into the United States. The Trump administration has put a $50 million reward out for anyone who can provide information that would lead to the arrest and conviction of President Maduro. Maduro, by the way, is a dictator, a socialist, who has been collaborating with Russia and with China to bring their influence into our Western Hemisphere. He's also seized U.S. Oil interests and nationalized U.S. interests just for his own benefit. And then on top of that, last year he voided an election to stay in power. Think back to 1989. President Manuel Noriega, a known drug trafficker, who was collaborating with Cuba and the Sandinistas and with the Soviets. Oh, by the way, he was hostile to U.S. interests. And oh, by the way, he was threatening our use of the Panama Canal. And we had to invade, take him down, arrest him, bring him back, and put him on trial. We now have a 4,500-man strike force off the coast of Venezuela. An entire Marine Expeditionary Unit with guided missile destroyers and nuclear submarines are now postured in those waters. Shades of 1989 is what I'm saying. And this would definitely send a signal to Russia, China, to all of the countries that are friendly to the cartels. It would also hopefully put a curb on drug trafficking in the U.S. But it's a big, big, big deal. Keep your eyes on it, my friends.
And that's what we're doing here at the Next News Network. We are tracking this escalation. Venezuelan President Maduro declares he would give weapons to the entire population if the U.S. attacks. If U.S. attacks Venezuela, then apart from the 4.5 lakh soldiers, the entire country's population will fight with weapons. No American Marine will be able to escape and go back. According to this source, dictator Nicolas Maduro's narco-terrorist drug cartel about to get annihilated. America, Venezuela, the entire hemisphere will benefit enormously from the destruction of the Cartel de los Soles. The United States releases first video footage of its war fleet heading towards waters near Venezuela. As part of its major anti-narcotics operation, the U.S. has deployed additional naval assets to the southern Caribbean as part of President Trump's initiative to counter Latin American drug cartels. Two anonymous sources confirm the guided missile cruiser USS Lake Erie and nuclear-powered submarine USS Newport News are set to arrive in the region by early next week. This follows last week's deployment of an amphibious squadron, including the USS San Antonio, USS Iwo Jima, USS Fort Lauderdale, carrying 4,500 service members, including 2,200 Marines, to the waters off Venezuela. The source did not specify the mission details, but noted the deployments target narco-terrorist organizations threatening U.S. national security. Trump has prioritized combating drug cartels to curb migration and secure the U.S. southern border. In February, his administration designated Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, other drug gangs, and Venezuela's Tren de Aragua as global terrorist organizations, intensifying immigration enforcement against alleged gang members. Here's some of the footage. Some visuals from the deployment. You can see the arsenal that they are getting ready to use, all being presented. Some of that arsenal being used today, as President Trump has confirmed. 4 days ago, China reportedly planning to sell its most advanced fighter jets, the J-10C and J-20, to Venezuela, potentially taking out F-16s. Tensions with the U.S. are escalating fast. Preparing for war, Venezuela has sent troops to Colombia, and they are preparing for war with the U.S. And here is Alex Barnicoat's video discussing it.
Arrived in Venezuela just sent troops to the border with Colombia, closer to the US, just days after the US sent a fleet of warships to Venezuela. And today the US announced they sent another 2 warships to join the 3 warships that arrived in Venezuela earlier this week. But as I kind of said in response to that, today Venezuela sent 15,000 troops to the border with Colombia because of what the US has done. The Venezuelan president spoke on what the US is doing, and he said, quote, "I am confident that we will overcome this threat threat to the peace of the continent and to our country. Of course, though, it's incredibly unlikely that Venezuela is going to attack the US with these troops, but what it seems is that Venezuela is preparing to be attacked. If you don't know, those 3 warships that arrived in Venezuela earlier this week were carrying 4,000 Marines, which could attack Venezuela. But as I said in the video that I made on that last week, this came just a few weeks after the US increased the bounty to $50 million for anybody that arrests and prosecutes the Venezuelan president Maduro. So at least at the moment, the tensions between Venezuela and the US are skyrocketing. And if I'm honest, I really wouldn't rule out the US possibly using military force in the future. Of course, though, I'll keep you updated. And as usual, you can leave me a follow for some more global news.
Wow. So a lot of chatter about this all over the web. Here's more U.S. troops gathering near Venezuela, signaling a potential operation to capture Nicolas Maduro could come sooner than anticipated.
Has become a state. The U.S. has just deployed warships, submarines, and military forces to Venezuela's coast and is fully prepared to launch an attack because the U.S. claims Venezuela has become a state-sponsored hub for drug cartels smuggling drugs to the U.S. and the world. The U.S. has now explicitly declared its plans for a military operation and has offered a $50 million reward for the arrest of President Nicolas Maduro. It is important to note that Venezuela sits on the world's largest oil reserves, yet its economy has collapsed under harsh international sanctions. Venezuela's oil exports face severe restrictions, with the majority of its trade now limited to partners like China, India, and select Latin American countries. Any country engaging in this trade also risks facing heavy U.S. sanctions. In response to this U.S. move, Venezuela has been placed on high alert. Meanwhile, some reports suggest Russia may be secretly deploying forces to Venezuela, given Venezuela's close ties with both Russia and China. What's really behind this sudden military buildup? First, is the United States genuinely acting only to combat drug trafficking? Second, is the real goal to pressure the arrest and removal of President Nicolas Maduro? Or third, and perhaps most importantly, are America's true ambitions focused on securing Venezuela's massive oil reserves, the largest in the world? The U.S. has just deployed warships, submarines.
So we're going to wait and see how this pans out. We do have the border czar, Tom Homan. Here's some more visuals of the U.S. Navy destroyers edge closer to Venezuelan coasts, signaling major escalation in the fight against the cartels. Venezuela is prepared to defend its sovereignty. In other words, Caracas is preparing for war with Washington. Getting kind of scary over there. 6 U.S. ships are now off the coast of Venezuela. The government has mobilized 4.5 million militia. We've activated the National Guard in 19 states. Are we going to go to war with Mexico and Venezuela? Is a question being asked. Mexican cartels authorized the use of weaponized drones and explosives on U.S. Border Patrol agents and troops.
That the cartel also just got our hands on a memo out of the Rio Grande Valley sector that actually says that this is kind of crazy here, that the cartels authorized the use of weaponized drones, explosives against CBP personnel and U.S. law enforcement down there at the southern border. Now, they're actually being encouraged, of course, to remain cognizant and vigilant, but they're also being encouraged to use their long arms, Blake. I have never seen this in a CBP memo before. They say, wear your ballistic gear, yes, but they're telling them, hey, have your long arms. Yes, they are saying, watch out for these weaponized drones. We've seen a lot of infighting with 2 different factions of the cartel down in Tamaulipas, that is on the south side of the border in the Rio Grande Valley, and they have like an all-out war happening between these cartel factions. So they are warning now that they might be using these weaponized drones against U.S. personnel on this side. So definitely cause for concern there.
Wow.
All this against the backdrop of the buildup in Venezuela. Here is the border czar, Tom Homan, on his strategy to dismantle the Mexican drug cartels once and for all, speaking with Jesse Waters on Fox.
Cartels are getting craftier. They're obviously trying to adapt to what you're throwing at them. You're seeing this video now. They're on boats. How have you seen the coyotes and the cartels kind of reorient their business to handle what you've done?
Look, they are going more maritime. We knew they would. That's why we've increased Coast Guard patrols 3 times, 3 times more than we have in the past. So Coast Guard will answer that call. So we're going to shut them down maritime too. Look, we're going to put them out of business. President Trump is designating them criminal terrorist organizations, which they should be. They've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in this world combined. President Trump will end up wiping them off the face of the earth because we're going to put them out of business. You put them out of business, you take their money away. They can't bribe Mexican officials. They can't bribe anybody. Without money, they have no power. And we're not just going to attack in Mexico. The Jalisco cartel, we're going to attack them in the 43 countries that currently operates in 43 different countries. We're going to attack them worldwide.
Worldwide. And you just saw the first strike video that happened this morning. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So this changes everything. Trump's Oval Office confirmation of strikes against Venezuelan cartels marks a historic shift. We're no longer playing defense. Maduro's begging fell on deaf ears. His threats to arm millions empty. His pleas to China and Iran desperate. The first precision strikes hit cartel infrastructure at dawn. And this is just phase 1. Tom Homan's revelation about operations in 43 countries mean the cartel's global network faces annihilation. No more sanctuary cities, no more safe havens, no more poisoning American kids with fentanyl. When over 1,000 cartel drones breach our airspace monthly carrying explosives, when they deploy IEDs and RPGs like military units, they stopped being criminals, they became enemy combatants. Trump promised every tool, legal, financial, military. Today he delivered. The message to every cartel from Sinaloa to Caracas. America is done negotiating with narco-terrorists. So the question is, should cartels be officially designated as terrorist organizations, yes or no? Sound off below. Let's continue this conversation. You can get your American Badass gear at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, where you can trigger a liberal. Today, you'll find a link down below.